Oh, man. What do we got going on here? See if I can get some stuff organized over here, guys. All right. Looks like you guys can hear me. Let's make sure my sound looks good. Sound looks good. You guys should be able to hear me. Looks like you guys should be able to see my words too. We are starting the new year off, thinking of more ways to get people into doing Linux, trying to get more people understanding this stuff. The last day of the year and then yesterday, when we've been kind of hanging out, I've been going over like all of the Linux systems administration course. So I figure keep working on it today a little bit. Maybe we'll hammer out a little bit more of this Docker stuff and this Kubernetes stuff as we kind of work through all of it, and then we'll keep going from there. So that's kind of where we're at. We're not working too hard today, as usual. As per the usual, we're not working too hard. If you have any questions about systems work, let me know. If you have any questions about what we're doing over in the lab here, let me know that as well. So I think we were on Unit 10. I think that's where we had gotten to. And in Unit 10, we were talking about, this is some announcement stuff that we have. How's it going, Foss Unleashed? And we talked a little bit about, containerization, and then the developer was having a problem. And this is discussions that we had, and then worksheets and labs and all these kind of things. And then we got into the topics for Unit 10, which were go look at Kubernetes, right? And then answer some questions that I asked. And then a ticket comes up for the new cluster. So we're going to go look at that. So everything's going good, Foss? I saw that you were streaming. I didn't get on there today, or it was today or yesterday. I think you were streaming. I didn't make it on there, but I saw that you'd popped on. So I always try to keep more people streaming, especially people trying to teach people stuff. I think that I think everybody can do this stuff. I think sometimes people just need permission to go do it. They just need to see somebody else do it and go, oh shit, that guy can do it. If this guy can do it, I think I can do it. And you're probably right for most of you. So, yeah. What do we have? So this was, check this out, guys. If anybody wants to know how this course works, you go hopping into our little Discord here, right? Discord's a relatively friendly place, but it could be scary, I guess. In our ProLUG projects. Oh, you did a lot of Vim? Nice. Back on 10, so back on Unit 10, go up here a little bit. These were the types of questions that we asked. There were 3 discussion posts for 10. And the first one was, what are 2 most compelling reasons that you see to implement Kubernetes in your organization? So from Kubernetes docs, right? These little docs will pop up here. Let me pull this up over here. Actually, let me link this to this page so that they're just linked together real quick. Hold on. It's kind of annoying. All right. So anyway, so when you look at Kubernetes, right, what does Kubernetes do? And this is what Kubernetes says that it provides you with. Service discovery, load balancing, orchestration, rollouts and rollbacks, automatic bin packing, self-healing, secret and configuration management, batch execution, horizontal scaling, IPv4 and IPv6 dual stack, and then extensibility, like you can write your own features for it, right? Okay. What does Kubernetes not do? A bunch of stuff down here. And then they give you a little bit of context. So this is, I do think this is a good, for people that maybe have only heard about Kubernetes, but maybe never dug into it at all. This is a good, get a handle on what they're trying to do. Like, what does Kubernetes bring to an organization? Like, we've heard all this virtualization stuff, and people talk about that all the time. And then we've heard containerization, but then, what does Kubernetes add to that, right? So, if you want to go read about that, that's all here. So that was my question, was what are the 2 compelling reasons that you see to use it in your organization? And then I said, when the article says Kubernetes is not a PaaS, that's PaaS, right? Platform as a service. What do they mean? What is platform as a service as opposed to just deploying a Kubernetes cluster? Because they are significantly different, right? One is much more what we call turnkey, and Kubernetes doesn't seek to be that. That's not what they're trying to do. Koiso said basically Kubernetes is used for multiple server orchestration. No, Kubernetes. So if you guys were around yesterday, we were just deploying. We were just like building and deploying containers and just putting them out there. And when you build and deploy a container, you have to control the open port on the machine that it's going to map to, and then the port back to the actual container that you're using. And you have to do all this stuff. And if you have multiple people using a server, you have to map all that yourself, right? Like if you're running Docker, you have to do all that crap yourself. Docker or Podman or whatever. If you're just doing normal containerization in an environment, it is exceedingly difficult to put all that stuff together and keep it orchestrated. But Kubernetes will do all that orchestration for you. You just define kind of what you want, and then it'll go and it'll deploy those containers for you. Now, we don't deal with them as containers. We deal with them as pods, and pods spit up the containers as they need them. I meant spin up. But yeah, they spin up the containers as needed, or inside them. So in Kubernetes, the smallest unit we ever function on is a pod, and pods can have multiple containers that are related to each other, right? There can be ambassador containers, there can be sidecar containers, there can be all these different types of containers that are doing stuff inside of a pod. So you guys came in here, and then you go and you look at the discussions and why some people saw it fit to use in an organization. So you can go read about that if you want. I think there's some good insight. If you want to add to that yourself, you can, right? And then we talked about, you get a ticket to your new cluster, the team's unable to deploy some of their applications, and they suspect there's a problem, and they send you over this output. So they send you some output that when you go and you look at it, it doesn't make sense. Like the versions are different between the nodes, and you see that a node is not ready instead of being ready, and you have to go dig into what that means, right? So this comes from our unit 10 of our discussion. And then I said, what are you checking on the cluster? What do you think is important to check on a Kubernetes cluster? And if you start off and say, Scott, I don't know, then, well, this is where we go and maybe either ask an AI or go read a blog post, and then we start to write up our thoughts on, hey, this is what I would check on a cluster, right? So if I go hop into a cluster here, which I'm pretty sure I'm in one right here. I'm not sure why. I don't know why I was jumping in. I don't know why I was jumping in as that user. But let's go up to Scott user. And I can see what's going on in my system, right? So I know if I just come in a cluster and I want to make sure it's healthy, I might do something like this: kubectl get nodes. Like, what do the nodes see? And even just using kubectl there, if I am able to, I could have to switch context if I have multiple different clusters, but I just have one cluster here. And right here I can see that all of the systems are ready. If they're ready, that means that all of them, I don't have to go anymore to each one of these. Like, I don't have to go out and then go over to 2 and then say, it's actually interesting. Apparently my root password's expired. All right, I hardened these boxes, so it's kind of a hassle. We'll just jump back over here. My point in saying it is we know that they're kubelets running. Right, that's that old saying, security is the enemy of productivity. But anyway, so that was just going to take me, I was just going to have to go and fix those passwords everywhere, and I don't want to do it right now. So the keyed environment, we know what all the kubelets are on. Well, that makes sense, because if they weren't on, all of these wouldn't be able to be checked like this. They wouldn't show all that their status was ready. So I should be able to deploy across these. I should be able to deploy pods across these different nodes. I can also do kubectl get nodes -o wide, and I can see information about those nodes that's maybe interesting to whatever topic I'm looking at or working on. That's wonderful. Let's keep going out a little bit. There we go, boom. And I can see how long they've been up. I can see the version, make sure the versions are the same. Make sure they have IP schema like I want. And I can see maybe what their container runtime is and the version. Maybe I'm troubleshooting something not working. Maybe I want to know, yeah, that's a pretty good little start of these things. Another one that's really big that I love to show you guys is show labels, because labels will let me know if there's anything on the nodes that will I could either use labels to pull things towards the nodes, or I can see if there's any taints on the nodes which keep things from landing on them, right? You should be able to see that within the labels. So I don't see anything here that keeps me from that, although by default, typically, let me see if we have it here. Got the hostname prod, node role. Okay, it's got a node role. These other ones do not have that. Maybe I want to use this to make sure that it's not part of an external load balancer because it's a control plane. There's all kinds of stuff in here. All kinds of pieces of information that might be useful to me, maybe. All right. So anyways, I brought all that up to show you guys that there's a lot of stuff in the Discord if you guys want to go do any of this. But what did we talk about that week? We talked about like a Kubernetes Lite setup that you guys could run. We talked about some Kubernetes concepts. We talked about looking at the Kubernetes resources and then deploying in Kubernetes with both imperative and declarative type commands. How do those compare and why might you want to use them? And what does it mean to be imperative and do something on the command line? What are the implications of doing imperative commands? So if you run a bunch of imperative commands everywhere, cool. You got it working on your cluster, awesome. But can that be moved anywhere? Is that functional in other places? Not really, right? You have to use declarative setups to be able to move things and lift and shift into a different cluster, right? Imperative is just like command line stuff, and you're just building it. So declarative is much more the way that we prefer to move things around. Declarative gets into your YAML config files and also your eventual, Helm deployments of things, right? Which, if you're going to be pretty serious about this, you're going to need to learn your Helm deployments, right? Here's Kubernetes architecture, and actually it's funny, the day that we did this, week 10, I don't know if anybody here was here for the week 10, my brother came and talked as well because he runs OpenShift for a really big insurance company. He runs all their OpenShift, so he has like thousands of workloads of OpenShift and multiple servers and all that stuff, like multiple hundreds of servers back-ending this OpenShift for all of their dev environments. And then I don't know how much production environments they use on it, but I imagine there's some production workloads now. When I was there weren't any production workloads. I left there I left there first in 2019, and then I went back for a little while, and then left again in 2023. So I was at that same insurance company twice, but I was over on the Linux and the platform engineering side, right? And then I became the red team lead. I told you guys about that. I ran all the red team stuff, and that was kind of it was a mess in a lot of ways, but it was also a mess in that we got a new CISO while I was there, and they fired my manager and my manager's manager. So I'm just sitting there reporting to the CISO, and I'm just like the tech lead for this team. I'm not a manager. Like I don't like sign people's like PIP reports and shit. I don't do that. That's not what I do. I'm like that Wakanda. Like, well, no, we don't do that here. That's me. I don't do any of that stuff. I do technical stuff. So I was doing all the firewall, the web application firewall stuff for the company, and all the certificates, and then I was helping manage the Vault stuff as well. And then I think I told you guys I was running all the all of our offensive stuff so all of our pen testing, and that was an interesting little behavior, just because like the way we nerf. Everybody here know what the term nerf means? Everybody here done at least enough gaming to know what nerfing means? You nerf it so much as to be, I think it's ineffective, where a lot of companies do red teaming. I find it to be too nerfed. But what do we do? All right, anyway, so this is directly from their information, and then you can go and look at each of these components, and you got to know what they are, right? Yeah, reduce the effect. It's like you put, if you guys have ever seen like a little Nerf bat, it's got the foam on it so you can hit each other with it and it doesn't hurt. Or a little Nerf ball, it's not as good as a real football, same kind of thing. Yeah, but in video games, we mean when you nerf something, you hit it with the Nerf bat and you weaken it, yeah. Weaken the effectiveness, for sure. All right, so what did we do in the labs that week? We installed Kubernetes, well, K3s, which is Kubernetes Lite. We looked at the system changes to running Kubernetes. We started and stopped it. We looked around inside of a functioning Kubernetes system. We deployed some services, and we did it imperatively. Imperatively means like at the command line, and at the command line, but in a non-repeatable way, really. Like, you wouldn't want to keep building imperative commands to run things. That's not the way we do it. Declaratively is the way we want to go. So the difference there, let me see if I actually have this in the, so we were in, what was this, unit 10? Go drop over to unit 10 real quick. We did as a PDF. Here's the lab. Let's open that up as Chrome. See what this looks like in Chrome. All right, I don't remember. This will be a little bright, but I don't remember exactly what we were doing in this lab. But how do we start off? We went in and we looked at the K3 installer and saw how it got built onto our system. Then we checked to make sure that SC Linux was off, because that was required for this. Then we installed it. We made sure that it was installed. We made sure it was on, and we looked at how it was started. We looked at the ports that it was using, 6443 for the API, all that kind of good stuff. And then we went and we stopped it and we started it and we did a bunch of things. And then we got in and started looking at Kubernetes, right? Like, how is Kubernetes running in our environment? By the way, again, all these are up in the Discord if you guys want them. And then we came down here and we ran some actual workloads inside of our Kubernetes. We just built out these systems, and then this is where I was talking about an imperative command. Like, this is fine. This is a fine thing to run right here. This is imperative. Let me pull this over here. Pull this over here. Pull this up. Let's go jump in one of our boxes here. We'll do the lab. I don't have too much time tonight, but we can do a little bit of a lab. So SH over to like Rocky. Let's do like 17. Who am I? Who am I? Okay, I'm the only one on it. Uptime. Okay, good. So we'll do the lab. We'll do it like it's a little lab. So we come up here. Again, all this stuff's on the Discord. If you guys don't know how to get in there, you should be able to find it. We'll curl-sfl https get.k3s.io, and we'll throw that out to temp k3 installer.sh, right? And then if I just view temp k3, I should be able to look at this and say, okay, this is how the system is going to run. This is how the system is going to install this Kubernetes if I choose to do it. There's a bunch of comments at the top, mostly changelog stuff. And then here's some helper functions at the top that are set up. Info, warn, fatal. And then I can come down and I can go look at how it's starting. So if there's no systemd or OpenRC, those are the only two ways that this knows how to install K3s so that it'll work. We do have systemd on our system, but if we had also had, I've never used OpenRC, but if I had it on the system, maybe that's for you guys that run, what's that Arch everybody's always talking about? There you go. Boom. So then we come down, we look at, it's printing out some stuff and it's checking some things. It's got some little functions it's making. It's fine. Then it's going to come down, it's going to start to check for invalid characters in the system name. It's just doing a bunch of checks, right? And then it should start the install. Down here, it checks for the architecture. Do we have an architecture in uname-m? And I've told you guys before, a lot of times when you're looking at commands, you're doing the same thing a script is. Uname-m is x86-64, so it's looking for this right here, and it's going to set the architecture for whatever decisions come later in the script to AMD 64. Now, so look at what this case statement does. Cases are called, in the three types of decisions you can make, which are single alternative, dual alternative, and multiple alternatives. Those are the three ways that you can do decisions in computer science, right? This is a multiple alternative structure, and it causes, there's a forced outcome. If you don't select door 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, you are forced into fatal unsupported architecture. That's what you get. You have these 6 options, or you fall into the everything bucket. That little glob there is the everything bucket, right? Is that Gen 2 that uses it, Foss? I don't know. Yeah, I don't keep up with all the versions or whatever, but I just know that this can work on those 2 things, right? I don't even know what one of the 2 things are, right? I tell you guys often, you'll never learn all the Linux. Like, you'll never learn all the things. Just get good at referencing what you need to when you need to, right? All right, so anyway, so we can look here. We can sit around and take this all apart all day, but this is this works pretty well, right? And I tell you guys, if you are gonna go write in Bash, which, by the way, perfectly working deployer in Bash. Olama is a deployer written. The Llama deployer is completely in Bash. Fisherman has a really good lab on that. But you can come in here and you can take this all apart. And I would tell you guys, if you're ever going to write shell scripts, if you're going to write it like program, first off, go find Sending Grounds in our Discord. Sending Grounds is really good. He also does stream on Twitch. I don't think he's streaming any on YouTube, but he definitely streams on Twitch. He's real good. He programs in Bash, so he's one of these guys who he has some really good. When I say programs, he does stuff like this where it's very robust. But don't, like, at the risk of being somebody who's telling you to steal things, I'm saying, like, if this is a perfectly usable download hash function for you, take it. Or if it's a function that'll work well enough and you just have to tweak some names of things, use it. Why write stuff yourself, right? I mean, this is, and then if you ever ask somebody, you're like, oh man, sorry, I took your code, and he's like, it was stolen when I got a hold of it, right? Like, this is the way that we do this stuff. This is what we do. So, anyways, this is, I don't do a lot of this anymore. This reminds me. I used to do more of this for server deploy stuff when I first started deploying servers, 15-ish years ago, when I found out that was something I excelled in, was deploying servers and making them look the same. But I don't get deep into Bash. Like, I don't get much past, like, maybe right about here on Bash anymore. I'm not, like, elbows deep and, like, shoulders deep in Bash anymore. I mostly use Ansible for everything. I can do almost everything I need to in Ansible. So there are some good things here, and there was a design decision somewhere early on where they chose to use Bash for this, and it works perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just telling you, if you find yourself using Bash, don't be afraid to go, use this to figure out the architecture, because that's a fine way to split architecture right there. In fact, that's a little more robust than the Llama one does. The Llama one breaks your architecture up into like 3 types, I think. They don't have this option. They don't have this. They do have ARM64 for Arch, but they don't have some of this other stuff. Oh, they do have that. But anyways, the point is there's different ways to do this. Anyways, so we come over here and we could look for architecture out of there. We could pull different things. Let's just install it. Let's run it on this box. Let's see what happens. I think that we should be able to run it. Let's see if that runs. It's going to give us a lot more information. It's going to download it. It's already running in the script. It's already giving us this information. And it's already started. See, it's using DNF in this case to install the K3 SE Linux, because it found that it could use that installer. It didn't have to go anywhere else. Also, Bad Cop also does a bunch of stuff in Bash. Yeah, nice. I think I've seen a recommendation for Bad Cop. I don't think I've actually watched this stream over there yet. And then all next week I'm going to be in Ohio next week doing stuff. I've never been to Ohio before. I've been to a lot of states, but never Ohio. Oh, I also got to stop over in Atlanta. That sucks. Stop over in Atlanta, get off the plane, go somewhere else, get on another plane. That's always annoying. I don't like doing that, but it'll be all right. Shouldn't be too bad. So, getting this installed. These boxes are a little slow because they're just little lab boxes that we have. But now we could do some things. We can look at what's been installed on our system. We're good with that. We can make sure that Kubernetes is running. We'll keep doing it. We'll do the whole lab. I wasn't going to really bog down in all this, but I think that I think that these are valuable things to look at. And also, I want to alert people to the fact that we do have this stuff up in the Discord, and you guys can go and do these labs if you want to. RPM QA actually that's one dash last, and then TAC. This will show you what's been installed on the system and what was installed last, and the last thing to be installed were these two things right here, right? And that coincides with my current date, which is in UTC, even though that's like 11 hours ahead of not 11, that's 7 hours ahead of me. Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah, that's 7 hours ahead of me. So that's what I have my system set to. Does anybody know why most of us set all of our servers to UTC time? Anybody know why a lot of server companies, a lot of, high performance compute stuff, we just set everything to UTC? Companies that are all over the world, why do we set all of our stuff to UTC? There's a reason for it. System CTL status K3s. K3S. There we go. So it's running, and I've got a process ID right here. Here's its main PID. But let's go look. If I do an ss-ntulp, do I see this 6443? Yes. I see that it's listening, and maybe if I were to dig in on this PID up here, if I were to do like an LSOF-P for the PID, I should see what it's holding open, and maybe I would see that they're typically at the bottom. Yeah, there it is, listening for TCP. We could also grep for it if we knew to look for it. And check this out, we can also look for -I and then the port number 6443. So this is the processes that are using 6443 in my system, right? And who's connected to it and who's communicating with it. So there's kind of like there's a whole lot of stuff to look at, right, in a system for what's going on, but that's what the lab kind of gets you used to. Like this is all the stuff I just showed right there. I just didn't pull it up. So we know we have a running system inside of here. I should just be able to say kubectl get nodes and see the one node that's ready. He's the control plane or the master node. And you will often find that the master node is the older kind of names on it. So you would have the master nodes and the slave nodes. Nowadays, you'll tend to see them called control plane and worker nodes. Just so you guys know, that's a common thing. I can do all the same things here that I did earlier. I can say -O wide and see more information about this. I can say -O wide and show labels and get more and more. Maybe I need to take the O wide off to see the show labels. Huh. Or maybe the labels are just going off the screen because it's not wrapping. Maybe I'm getting all the labels there. Let's see. Yeah, the labels are going off the screen. There's probably a way to get that to wrap. I'm not sure exactly why that's not wrapping, but we can figure that out if we really cared. It's not all that big of a deal, right? But the point is we can see all this information if we wanted to. No manual entry. Let's see if there's a help. Yeah, it's interesting that it doesn't want to wrap. Alright, doesn't matter. One of those things we'll keep in the back of our heads here. But anyways, the point is we can get up here and we can do kubectl version. Just start doing commands and looking around inside of a running system. Here's our kubectl version, kubectl get nodes, get pods if we had any pods, and -A will say across all namespaces. Because here's the thing, if you do get pods, nothing. Kubectl get namespaces, there's other namespaces than the default one. We're only looking in the default one by default. But if I say across all namespaces, now a bunch of them show up. But the namespace is cube system, so they're over here in this cube system. And now this becomes a lot more important if you're going to go take like a certified Kubernetes administrator and you want to dig into what we call our static pods and how they work. Because we're running in K3s, which is kind of a smaller little thing, we don't dig into that as much and we don't really care. But it is important to know that like you always have a core DNS running. And if you were having trouble with core DNS, where would you go look? Well, you would go check out what's going on with this pod. And if you were having a problem getting to this core DNS pod, right? So if we did a kubectl get pods, so we say get pod -n kube system, and then the pod name that we wanted was this core DNS one, right? We could see that it's there. We see that it's running. It's back-ended. It's been up for 5 minutes and 31 seconds. And we can say -o wide, and we can get its IP information. So now we can see IP traffic. But then we say, well, but how are we hitting that? How does DNS in this cluster know how to use that core DNS pod? That pod, if I killed that pod right now, watch this. If I just said, I'm going to say delete pod. He's gone. Gone. Gone forever. Never to come back, guys. He's gone forever. But, hold on. If we look again, there's a new pod. I knew there was going to be a new one because the replica set for it desires to have one pod, so it will rebuild it. He's been up for 10 seconds. But hold on a second. He's going to have a new IP address. When we go rerun this command right here and we look for that core pod, right, the core DNS pod, he's going to have a different IP address, guys. Watch -o wide. Oh, we don't want to delete him. We want to get pod. Get. Now he's going to have a new IP address, 1042.09. Well, how would DNS keep working if that's the case? Does anybody know? Has anybody been here before when I've shown this kind of stuff? How do all of the systems know to do DNS properly in this system? Let's go look at our services. There's a kubedns service that's always running. And if we describe that service, we're going to say describe service for kubedns. We have to be in the right namespace, which is kube system. This is where it kind of gets interesting. Describe service kubedns. Sorry. We get all this, but hold on real quick. Let's go describe our core DNS real quick again. Look at his IP address and look at the endpoint for this service. So this service right here, kubedns, is always looking for these labels, and if it finds those labels on a pod, it makes it into one of its endpoints. So this service is a place that people can always shoot to as a marker, and there will always be back-ended some pod. Pod should be up. Even if we delete it, it'll come back up and it'll be re-registered as it comes available, as it gets checked off as ready inside of Kubernetes. It becomes an endpoint based on the labels here. Sorry, it's based on the selectors. The selectors here pick this. So watch this. We'll change that to show labels. And here is his K8's app kube DNS. And there is the selector to point to him. So that's how it knows to make that endpoint right there his endpoint, his IP address. That's how they find each other. Selectors and labels. It's like kings and pawns, right? We're all kings and pawns. Anybody know who said that? Who said that for who? Who said that for which historical character who may or may not have actually said that, but he did say it in the story? Kings and pawns. We are all kings and pawns. All right. You can get all this other stuff. There's just all this stuff here. That's what the lab's about. All right, we won't go too much into that. You make some stuff in there, you break some stuff. That's what our labs look like. All right. And then why do we care as an administrator? Like this is the crux of our course, is everything we did, every part that we kind of played in all these different Linux spaces was like, why do we care? Kubernetes is orthogonal to being a Linux administrator. I'm a Linux administrator. I sit in here and I do Linux, and I keep my Linux systems up, and I do Linux engineering, and I build my Linux servers, and that's what I do. But nobody runs Linux just to run Linux, right? They have, in these Linux environments, they have Kubernetes running now, and they have web servers running. This is why a lot of, if you guys know older Linux admins, a lot of these guys know the LAMP stack real well. They know Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, or Perl, or Python, whichever P they used back in the day. I started out with Perl, right? And then they moved to, it's now called typically PHP. But a lot of guys knew how to run all that because they had to maintain all of it for people, right? Well, this is why we care as administrator. We're not developers. If we're a Linux admin or a Linux engineer or even a network engineer, we're not really developers. We're not writing code. That's not how we get our individual contributor time in as a company. Like, my deliverables are not my branch and check-ins and all that pull request stuff. That's not how I, get good reviews. I build Linux servers, right? I keep Linux servers running. So why do we care what's going on in something that's, ostensibly just a developer tool? So the reason we care is we're responsible for installing the environment, almost always. We are almost always responsible for keeping the thing running, even though we're not really the ones like using it, but a lot of times, you're the guy with root on the system, so they expect you to do everything. This is interesting to note. You may see K3s professionally. I've seen K3s professionally as in the enterprise, but it's almost always like quick and dirty stuff. Like somebody needs to spin up on their dev environment where maybe they have like a root access because they're in dev, and they can spin up a quick K3s, pull down some stuff, test it, and build it out to proof of concept it or minimum viable product, right? That's what these are. And this is just to prove that something can work. I can get it to work once, therefore it's now ready to be productionalized. K8s, though, the actual Kubernetes deploys, has more moving parts, more production capabilities. It is much more standardized. You can pay to get support. You can read support blogs about it. Whereas like K3s is much more like, you're going to hear stuff like, why are you running that in production? So K3s is definitely less of a production type thing. Anyways, admin chef infrastructure like Java. Yeah, Raleigh, I tell people all the time, this is the same thing with like electrical engineering, network engineers, Linux engineers. You are going to do these things, but you are going to do them for a video game company. You are going to do them for a electrical company, and the way the company makes money is by selling people electricity, and you just do all their Linux. Or me, I've spent a lot of time doing insurance and banking stuff. I didn't mean to learn any of that crap that I had to learn for that, but I did because I was maintaining servers that mattered for that kind of stuff. One I tell you guys is I used to work for a company called Caris Life Sciences, and actually somebody on here one time had also worked at one of the Caris adjacent things. I have a few people down the Discord that worked with me over there too, but Caris does cancer research, so I've learned way more about cancer research than I ever thought I would in my life. Like, and I ran high performance compute for a company that was doing cancer type research and stuff. Yeah, insurance and banking. Yeah, Raleigh, we might hang out in some of the same circles. Who knows? But this is another thing. Even if you're not, this is another reason why we care as an administrator, right? When you're good as an engineer, when you start getting thought of by other people, it's like, hey, bring that person in. They know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. You may just be able to apply troubleshooting good practices and find the solution. I get called in. I told you guys, and you guys might think I'm messing around. I tend to get called into calls that have nothing to do with what I do, and I even get called. So my company has multiple different teams doing a lot of different stuff. I'm kind of on this deployment team. In fact, when I'm out in Ohio, I'm going to be working on 3 different high-performance compute clusters for one of our government contracts. And I get called by people on other teams doing other stuff, and they're like, hey, Scott, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't know, I haven't worked exactly with that, but can you pull it up? What can you show me about it, right? And they'll show me, and I'll be like, well, I mean, is that broken? Is that broken? And I'll do like my normal troubleshooting steps, and people are like, I didn't even think about that. And I'm like, all I did was go through my normal checklist that I show you guys. I show you guys how I do all my troubleshooting, right? Like that's all been in this course. I pulled it up here. If you guys want to see those notes, they're all right. I don't hide anything from you guys here, I don't think. Here's my presentation stuff. Here's all of our general troubleshooting right here. This is up in the Discord, guys. Anybody that wants this can have it. Here's our general troubleshooting right here. How do we troubleshoot systems? That's it. There's a bunch more, but that's it. Oh yeah, I've done... somebody asked me the other day, did you do any Windows? And I'm like, I don't tell people that much, but I have done a fair amount of Windows. Oh, Raleigh, yeah, you guys have about 13,500. Yeah, there's a lot of... Man, and sometimes it's like we could consolidate a lot of this stuff down, but it's like there's just that. Yeah, I have the 5 Ys in one of these. So when we were doing this one, where do I have 5 Ys? I do have the 5 Ys right here. Little worksheet on this. This was week 15. We're not to this one yet in our review, but this is week 15. So this one's coming up. We're on 10 or 11 still. Where are we at here? Hold on. We're in 10. So why do we care about all this Kubernetes stuff? Well, because even if we don't want to do Kubernetes, you're like, leave that for the site reliability engineers and the DevOps guys. The smaller your company is, the more stuff you do as a Linux engineer. So you take hats off and put hats on all day, and I can almost promise you your Kubernetes is going to be run primarily on Linux. There are Kubernetes workloads that work on Windows though, so I have to back away slowly from that. I can do all the Kubernetes commands on that. I don't know any of the underlying Windows like to Kubernetes stuff. I haven't done any of that in my life. So, all right. Anyway, so that's why do we care? And then questions. If you have questions about that, feel free to ask them down in the Discord. We are in the last couple weeks. We have out to January 19th. If anybody wants to try to finish all this stuff, although it would probably be about 140 to 150 hours worth of time. It's all completely free, but it's just going to take you a lot of time, so I don't think a lot of people are maybe interested in doing that. All right, let's go find what's week 11. Hold on. We're just reviewing stuff right now. I'm not working too hard. What did week 11 look like? And I'm kind of going through. This is also kind of like nostalgia for me. I'm like looking back on all the stuff we did. So this was right before Thanksgiving, right? Right before my wife's birthday. Wife's birthday is in this week right here. And we were in our 11th class meeting, and the week before we had done the Kubernetes stuff, done all that. And this week we got into, this was our monitoring week. All right, so we got into monitoring this week. Does it plug in to get power? Must be an IT problem. Fair enough, Alpaca. Yeah, I tell people like, you're always gonna have to troubleshoot your own stuff in IT, right? They're just like, let this guy go. Shinobi said, is this a college course? No, this is a 16-week course that we ran through the Professional Linux Users Group, which is our Discord. Let me link that for anybody that wants it. Discord. There's our Discord for anybody that wants it. I'll go drop it over on the YouTube side as well. And no, we ran a 16-week course. It's free. All you got to do is go and start it if you wanted to. It's in the ProLUG projects of our Professional Linux Users Group. That's what ProLUG stands for. And it's just a bunch of stuff. Yeah, it's free. Everything in here is free. You can go, I tell you guys all the time, you can jump into our Discord. You can take all this stuff, put it in a sack, and run away like a cartoon villain. And the only thing I would say is, well, sorry to see you go. Like, it doesn't tell us when you leave Discord. So I tell you guys all the time, just take it, use it, right? If I tell you guys, if you can't stand to listen to me for another minute, go grab all the stuff and go do it on your own. I'm fine with that. But I also posit there is a lot of good study group and people, run away with all the knowledge. Yeah, I tell people all the time, I've been training engineers for 20 years. I've been teaching college for 16, but I've been training other engineers. And I tell you guys all the time, all I'm trying to do is bring up the one that knocks me off the top spot so I can go retire. And if anybody does ever knock me off my top spot, I'll just be like, all right, I'll just go back to like being a lazy normal engineer. I don't have to be the team lead or the tech lead anymore, you know. But here's all this. If you want the recordings, because I'm just like going through it all, like we're doing like a recap of everything. there is if you go to the beginner start here section, there's the playlist for all 16 weeks. So, yeah, Mr. Nothing, I appreciate you coming by. Yeah, I mean, I try to show you guys how we do this stuff. Here's a bunch of free certs that are out there on the web. We're not related to any of these. I just think they're good. And then Linux beginners, all that stuff. All right. By the way, you can be as much of a beginner as you want in our Discord. The only thing that I say that we're trying to do in that Discord is to take you guys that are hobbyists and show you that you can be pros. If you want to go do this stuff and make money, obviously we're all messing around with Linux. It's just fun stuff to play with. But you can also go do it for where's it at? Hold on. No, not that one. This one. I can answer that for money, right? That can be you right there. You can you can say I can answer that for money. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Tuber over on YouTube. Come from a professional engineer. The knowledge in our Discord is barred none. Yeah, we try to have good stuff up there. I tell people often in my engineering career, I have a few superpowers, and you guys will be like, "Oh man, this is super chat." No, this is true. There are some things that I excel at beyond other engineers that I know. One of them, if I had a superpower, is this: when I'm in a meeting, everybody always thinks I know what's going on, which is amazing because I never know what's going on, and it's super funny. Like I'll be in a room of like 40 people, and they'll all be like, "Scott gets it," and I'll be like, "What? Yeah." They'll be like, "What do you think about that?" And I'm like, "Well, you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose." And they're like, yeah, that's no, I'm just kidding. But the point is, like, people always think I know what's going on. That's happened to me a lot in my career, and I never know what's going on, right? I'm always like off trying to figure out like, or I'm sitting like drawing in my little notebook, right? I always have a little notebook, but I never know what's going on. Yeah, Raleigh, you're always welcome to. Also, the thing about like doing it later, you're welcome to. I just think you won't get as much of like I kind of felt like we had a few people who were really on fire and like really doing the discussions and stuff. And I think that like if I rerun it in the new year, because I've thought about rerunning it, I think people might. I would update some things as we went, but I think that people might. It's better to do this in a group. Because especially in the discussions, you look at things, I look at things different than other people, you look at things different. So I think people kind of thrive when they can bounce their ideas off of other people, right? It's like, I don't know if anybody here's ever wrestled. Can't wrestle by yourself. You need to have a partner to wrestle. And if your partner's no good, it's not going to make you any better. Like if they just fall down every time you grab them, you can't get any better wrestling like that. Yeah. No, Raleigh, that's good. And I tell people that's my other kind of superpower, was gathering other people to myself that were probably better at this stuff than me. So we have a lot of people in our Discord that are actually really good at this stuff. And whereas I'm very good at the basics. I have people that they excel in all these other things. Like if you want to go talk to somebody, like if you want to talk to somebody about working at AWS, we have 4 people that I can think of right off that could answer specific questions about AWS. One of whom about 2 years ago got a job at AWS. All these guys do work at AWS, but he went through the hiring process, and then he did a talk with the group about how you go through the hiring process with AWS to get on as a solutions architect. He's a senior solutions architect with them. Also, I think he has the second most certs in our Discord for AWS. I think he's got like 7 or 8 of them. And we've got one guy who's got 12 AWS certs. I think there's like 14 or 16 AWS certs now. So anyways, the point is like one of my skills has been gathering other engineers to kind of hang out with me, right? All right, so anyway, so what do we talk about in discussions of monitoring? Well, we talk about what we monitor, how do we present that data out, how do we build dashboards, and who do we build dashboards for? Now, let me take an aside real quick. If you just want to learn how to build dashboards, right? If you say, Scott, I know you're going to talk about this from an administrator standpoint, but I want to build this, right? I want to pull in data from a server, Telegraph, Promtail, Node, whatever tool. I want to send it over to like Prometheus, and then I want to visualize it in a Grafana. Can you help me do that? If you tell me that, like, hey, don't worry about this monitoring in an enterprise stuff, Scott. I just want to know how to build this stuff for like my home lab. Okay, yes, we can do that. We go to our Killer Coda, right? Because Killer Coda is like the best thing ever. I'll give you guys a link. I've got 3 labs on this that I think are okay, and they will show you how to build these individual components. We also did a big lab monitoring setup. I'll show you guys that here. Where's our monitoring? So yeah, you want to monitor Loki and Promtail logs right here. Boom. This is like if you want to do logging. Boom. There you go. There it is over on the YouTube side of things. Boom. And this will show you how to build those components. In fact, this one here, which is Promtail to Loki to Grafana, will build this component right here. It'll build Promtail agent, pushes logs into Loki, which is an API endpoint for logs and messages, and then Grafana will pull stuff out of there. Boom. Probably I would pay more attention regarding monitoring to how to do the alert action and repairs, but someone's got to do the dashboards. What else would execs look? Fair enough, yeah. And you do need to think about, so this is just the, let's say you want to be like me. I'm a very big fan of just being like, hey, I'm going to go build one of these. This is what I'm going to be building the next week. And like, that's what I like doing as an engineer. But we walk over here. We do need to think about who we're showing dashboards to. One of the things, can I show you guys something? This has worked really well for me in my career. I'll show you guys something here. Let's pull this up. Let's get rid of the CISSP stuff we were talking about the other day and the Kubernetes stuff. And let me just show you guys something here. We'll go to our ProLUG and we'll do the dashboard for this. We'll do our security dashboard here. Right? Boom. And then we'll do our Ranger cam. All right. How's Ranger doing? Ranger's not on his bed because the wife's down there somewhere. All right. I've got these 3 dashboards. This has actually been something that, like, people ask me about this all the time. I just turn on little revolver tabs, and then this is something like I will build dashboards out for, like, the Network Operations Center and say, okay, what do we want to see here? Okay, boom, boom, boom. And then we'll put this up on a couple of 65-inch TVs on the wall, and then we'll just turn on Chrome with revolver tabs like this. It'll just revolve through. Oh, you want it every 10 seconds? You want it every 20 seconds? What do you want? I think 10 seconds is pretty good, but excuse me, we can roll through then. And, sometimes I'll be sitting here talking and you guys will be watching that and people will be like, how do you do all that? And it's like, that's the stupidest, simplest little thing I ever found. Little revolver tabs. Move through your different environments. Put on a 65-inch screen or a projector up in like a network operations center where you've got people tracking all kinds of things. You can have your alerts right up on a wall. Now, typically for those type of things, you want like a HUD display. This is not a HUD. This is not a heads-up display. This is a last 7 days usage, and this is last 7 days failed attempts and connectivity, right? This is a security and connectivity page, and this is a live Ranger page. This is maybe not what we want to flip through. Maybe we just want to flip through maybe up-down alert monitors, right? That kind of stuff. But the point is, we can build these, right? So if you want to just learn the technical building stuff, go look at the labs I linked. If you want to talk about like how we build monitoring solutions, that's more what we're doing here. All right, so here's the topics of discussion. What do we want to monitor, right? What do we want to monitor in an environment? There's 3 primary things. We've got logs, we've got metrics, and we've got traces. So logs are immutable records. They are immutable. They should not be able to be changed by anybody. They should be timestamped, and they should be a record of what's happening in your system. Logs should be aggregated off of the machine in real time. You should never have to go reboot a machine and get it back up to read its logs. That is some 2005 behavior. That's some early behavior. Even back then, we had syslog, right? You should not have to boot a server to check its logs. Ever. Because what if the server went down because of something malicious, right? If page faults spike, what's going on? Are you seeing performance? Yeah. So there's things that are also symptoms, but then there's also things that start to affect your service level objectives, right? There's things that can be going wrong in an environment that we can ignore to a point, right? And there's things that can wait until the weekend's over, and there's things that can't. And we need to understand those kind of things. But logs are one thing that we always want to track in systems. Logs are a record of what's happening within your system or software. Now, logging also, there's a bunch of rules about how you should log things, and you can look into them. There's some pretty good ones with like Prometheus, where they talk about how you track things. I have it in my Let me pull up if we're going to be talking about this, let me pull up my Prometheus stuff. I need to actually go schedule this cert too. I haven't taken this cert yet. I was going to take this in August of last year, and I've just been like super busy. But I prepared the talk for it, and I studied for it. I just never took the cert. Where's he at? Because I got the cert on sale, like 33% off. So I have this. This is also up in the Discord for people that want it. This was our PCA study guide. So if you want to go take the Prometheus Certified Associate. IOFault said, can you use Grafana to show tabular data? Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. IOFault, there's a lot of ways. We look at what Grafana can do. But yeah, Grafana can pull data and show it in a table if you want. Absolutely, 100%. You can pull in a table from a time series database if you want. No, so the time series database aspect of it is just because that's what we're feeding into it mostly. So when you see me doing it, I always use the metric of time. Like I always use time as my I guess x-axis if you want to call it that. But no, Grafana can show you heat-based maps. I'll show you all the stuff here in a second. But let me show you guys this. I want to show you something real quick in here. Service level agreements. That's all good. Hold on. How do we? This is up in the Discord if anybody needs it. Exposition format store. No. It has to do with when you're logging stuff out of libraries. Hold on. Here it is. When you're using libraries, right, and you're collecting metrics out of things, what do you want to keep track of? So this is like a subsystem of, let's say you're writing Go or you're writing something and you're running it up in like your pods on a Kubernetes cluster. What should be being tracked and sent out to Prometheus? That's what this part of the instrumentation talk is, or the discussion. And it's like within a library, you want to track how many times you queried it, what the errors are, latency, if you're calling for outside resources. These are the things we want to track. Internal errors, keep a counter. Latency, keep a each individual incident of latency, and then general statistics, right? Yeah, IOFault, you could definitely do that. You could definitely aggregate that up and show it. Let me 1 second. Logging, every line of logging code should increment a counter somewhere. So then if you can't find something, you can, right? So failures, thread pools, caches, and collectors. So there's a whole bunch of rules on that. We're not going into that right now. I actually need to restudy for all of that to get ready for my PCA. Because I got to take it before June. My little, when you buy the thing through what are they called, Linux Foundation, you only get it for a year. Your tests can be taken up to a year, and I've already blown the last year. I've studied for it a few times. I just haven't. I've been working on my doctorate. I've been working on keeping my jobs and stuff. So yeah. So that's true, Raleigh. A big part of it is just operational stuff, like watching that utilization's not going too high, making sure that the people who could then fix it, like I don't want to be called out for opt getting high on boxes. I want to enable my junior engineers as a layer of defense. I also want to enable like my bridge teams or my network operations people to know what they can actually go ahead and delete. And we actually wrote Ansible playbooks for this, so they could in a dev environment. They can always delete. In a dev environment, 100% of the time, you are 100% of the time allowed to delete all of var log, and all of var cache. Those three things I don't give a shit about. Temp as well, /temp. Those four directories, I would let anybody in the company push a button to delete all of those every 5 minutes if they wanted. Because it's in the dev environment. It's taking down things that I don't really care much about. And everything in there can be recreated or pulled back, or I could at least justify. Temp might be one that you want to limit them off of because maybe you don't want to delete things. But things that I wouldn't let people delete would be like /opt. /opt can never be touched. That's third-party tools that people are adding. Anything in home, not letting you touch home. But I might let you remount home. If home is remotely mounted off of NFS or something, and somebody's getting some kind of weird stale errors or something like that, I would give you an Ansible playbook that would be. So the reason I say Ansible playbook is I can give you access into Tower, and then from Tower I can give you the power to run Ansible playbooks against only certain environments. This is one of the really powerful things about Ansible. And then I can do, instead of giving you like a list of tasks to go through and giving you like sudo permissions, I can just give you those permissions to those playbooks I want you to be able to run in my different environments. And it's wonderful. It really is a good way to do things. Yeah, and I know exactly what I get a report for every every one of those things that gets run becomes a report back to me because, well, I'm insane, so I want to know everything that's going on in my systems. Because again, at the end of the day, if the person that yells is going to yell at me, I need to have control of things. And people might say, "Oh, Scott, you sound like a real." I'm actually I think I'm pretty easy to work with, but I will tell you what, my servers are definitely like stepping in line and getting in formation every damn morning so I can see what's going on. Yeah, what's in them too. Yeah, because they're all my stuff that's run in my playbooks is pushed up to like our Bitbucket or our Git, whatever repository. In fact, playbooks are the reason I had to learn how to do code reviews and stuff, was because we started reviewing each other's stuff. What are we doing? What can we release as a team, as the Linux and the Windows team? What can we release to the bridge so they don't have to call us anymore? And then there's a whole cadence and song and dance there where it's like we're not the same team, but we're kind of like sister teams, and we're kind of giving them, they're almost like a little brother to us or like a little sister, and we're giving them tasks to do. And again, we're not trying to patronize them, but we're like, okay, here you go, pat them on the head, you can do these things. But then we also have to give them the little bumpers so that they don't roll the bowling ball into some other, they don't just gutter ball it every time. Look, sometimes people just need to spend some time getting up to speed in an environment, and then we pull more of those things off, and eventually you get the responsibility of being root. By the way, that probably came up the most as we were running this Linux course. I'm like, we're doing 16 weeks of all this stuff, and people kept asking me, like, what about how do I get the job? And I said, guys, at the end of the day, the way you get a job in the operations world is you convince somebody else that it's okay to give you the keys to running their stuff. That's, at the end of the day, there's two things somebody wants to know in an interview. They want to know, can you do the work? And I think as an engineer, I can talk to somebody for about 3 to 5 minutes and know if they're operating at the level I want them to. I really do think that's possible. And then will they do the work? That's very hard. It's very hard to tell if somebody will do the work. They might just sit around and not do anything. It's actually my default state nowadays. But the point is, like how do we get people? Yeah. Well, and Raleigh, so you say you automate a lot of work. People think we'll automate the work and then we won't have enough work, so we'll get let go. No, guys. The more you automate work, the more stuff there is to go do. You don't run out of work. I think you get to do more interesting work. The more you automate the simple stuff, the more we have other things that we can then go do. You felt like the Bobs, yeah. The Bob's like, what would you say you do here? Do you actually take the stuff from one server to another? No, I've got people that do that. I've got Ansible playbooks that do all that. So you kick off the Ansible playbooks. No, I'm a people person, right? The guy flipping out because he's going to lose his job. Because if you guys don't know, the Bobs are from Office Space, and they're like the cost-cutting guys, and they come in. And they tell the dude, they look at the one guy, and they go, looks like you've been missing a lot of work. And he goes, I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob. Office Space was not that funny when I was in like 7th or 8th grade whenever it came out. But as an adult, that shit's hilarious. Because there's a lot of stuff in that movie that I'm like, man, that was like being in an office all the time. You'd be like ducking the boss on Friday because he's going to ask you to do something. And my boss sat directly behind me. We had like these double cube scenarios that were like low cubes, so we could see everybody on the team anyways. But my boss sat directly behind me. Like he sat about where my closet is, right there behind me. So yeah, the alpaca. I document things. I do all the markdowns. So you write the markdowns? Well, no, my editor does it. I have an IDE that does the markdown. I'm a content creator. I was telling you guys the other day, we started getting these weird, on YouTube side of things, we started getting these weird, because I'm a YouTube partner, even though I only stream on YouTube to kind of make like VODs for like what we do here on Twitch. And once you hit like 10,000, I think you become a partner or something. I don't know exactly what the rule is, but over on YouTube, I have this, I'm partner. And about 2 weeks ago, they started sending me these messages. I think they did it to all the partners. They're like, hey, partners, we want to know, you have to opt into this. And I'm like, that seems a little weird. We want to know if we can use AI, if we can use your content to train AI. And I'm like, what? So we can just have like a little AI bot of Scott sitting here going like this and teaching you guys Linux? I'm like, oh hell no. No, I haven't opted into it or whatever. But it's like they're asking all the people like, hey, will you let us use your image and your likeness and what you do and stuff? And I'm like, that seems like a little sus. This is like my fun. I don't want to have some other bot be more popular than me and something I do for fun. So at least they're asking. That's true. They probably could just. I'm sure the legal things say they can just do whatever the hell they want. So, yeah, it is nice they asked. That's fair. They probably didn't have to ask. Shunya, you said if you enjoyed office humor in 7th grade, you'd be child labor. Fun fact. I'll tell you guys a fun fact. I did start working at 11 years old. Has anybody been here long enough to remember what I did at 11? I started working at 11 years old. I worked on the weekends. I did probably something that most of you are going to think is much too dangerous for an 11-year-old. What's 11? What's that, about 6th grade? I did start working at 11. I worked from 11 through 16 at this job. Did it on the weekends. And actually it helped. It built a life skill that I did not know I was going to need, but it helped quite a bit. So I will do that. And then I will also challenge you guys. No, I did do roofing in my teens, but that was because my uncle owned a roofing company, but that was in high school. No. I will also challenge you guys this. I have been shot at more than everybody you know and everybody you've ever talked to or read about in your entire life. All right. I'm 100% sure of that, by the way. I'm not like, oh, I might not be. No, I'm 100% sure of that. Let's see if that helps anybody figure out what I did. I don't think anybody, I don't recognize any of my regulars here that have been around long enough because I haven't talked about what I did when I was a kid. But let's see if any of you guys can figure that out. This I think it's funny. Okay. Also, I missed a Prime subscription. Thanks for the Prime. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We have metrics, which are telemetry, and then trace data. I'll just tell you guys because it's never fun when people aren't guessing. I worked at a shooting range. I worked at a shooting range, and I worked at a shooting range, and I worked in the pits of the shooting range. Anybody know what the pits are? You stand behind there's like a big berm that goes up to about 10 feet behind you, and you stand up against a concrete berm, and they shoot over your head. And then you pull targets down, you mark them, then you put them back up, and you mark the shots. This was a shooting range. Things were going over my head at about 32 to 3,600 feet per second. So yeah, I worked in the pits of a shooting range from the time I was 11 to 16. Now, hold on. Fast forward to years later, I've literally had hundreds of thousands of rounds shot over my head. Now, hold on. Fast forward to I go in the Army. In the Army as an infantryman, I had to work the pits there, and I was really good at it. And they were like, "How do you know how to do all this?" And I'm like, "I did this for years for NRA matches when I was a kid. I worked in the pits on the weekends. I would pull target. You have your earplugs in, and the rounds would crack over your head." And then later on in life, when I was in Iraq in a war, at night when we would hear shots and my whole unit would get down, like my squad would get down, and I wouldn't get down, and my squad leader would come over and be like, "Why aren't you getting down?" I'd be like, "Those rounds aren't cracking over our head." Supersonic rounds that crack by you have a very specific sound to them. They have like a feel to them as they crack over your head. And I knew when things were coming at me and when they weren't. And then he'd always get mad at me, and I'm like, "I'm not getting down if the rounds are going over that way." And then, so anyways, I thought that was kind of funny. All right, but yeah, I did work at a shooting range from the time I was 11 till about 16 on the weekends. I was in child labor working when I was supposed to be going to school, guys. So anyways, but I did start shooting competitively when I was like 7. So I've shot long distance my whole life. So all right, intro to monitoring. So we do monitoring, right? For a systems administrator perspective, what do we want to know about a system? Well, we want to know this concept of utilization, saturation, and errors. And the reason I talk about this is it's really easy for you to remember the use methodology. It's called the use methodology. This is utilization is always 0 to 100%. How utilized is the system? Right? How utilized is the system? 0, right here. 0 to 100%, 0 to 100%, 0 to 100%, 0 to 100%. That's our utilization. Saturation is where you hit 100% somewhere. Let me see if I can find... Does anybody here remember where we crashed a while back? I think it's still on here. We crashed because we filled up one of our devices here. And we got really weird data in here while that thing was full. We were getting like parts of data. So look, we have like incomplete data in here. Or data, however you want to say it. Sitting down at a shooting range and that child labor is worse. Yeah. Well, we liked it. Me and my brothers liked it because it was good money when we were kids. But look, here's our crash. Here's where we recovered. But then for a while there, we weren't getting good reporting. So we have missing parts of our data. Now, do we have enough to probably make future recommendations for our environment? Like if I'm looking at my environment right now and I'm trying to figure out where, maybe for this year for the professional Linux users group I have let's say I have like $2,000. I have $2,000 to spend on making our lab environment better. And we look at this and we go, well, where would we best spend it? Well, do we need more disk? No, but on our network storage, I'm kind of shaky on my network storage. I probably need a little bit more here because I'm sitting up pretty high on a system host box that I do kind of care about. But my memory usage is pretty good. My system's mostly just chill. My CPU a little high, but that's only on individual nodes. That's not that big of a deal. I also have another one of these. Hold on, I don't know that I've looked this up in a while, but I'm pretty sure I have all the Zen server. So here's all my. I need to go flip these over. Actually, that might be a good project to do. We could even do it now if we wanted. I need to flip these over because I don't think I'm... Let's see. We'll do it later. Every time I start to think about doing stuff, I'm like, I don't really want to do any actual work tonight. All right, hold on. We got to go find some IP addresses. I'm pretty sure my IP addresses are 98, 99, and 200, but let's go see. What's our networking here? Oh, 201. Hold on. So 201, 198, I think 199. All right. Where are we at here? All right. These are purposely not in my host file on this box, and I'm pretty sure I don't have keys to them because even if you ever got into my jump box and compromised, I don't want you to be able to get into these, right? These are separate. So 198, let's go in here real quick. Okay, I got access to him. All right, let's go to Etsy Telegraph. Do I not have a... All right. Well, these, yeah. Tuber said, am I the real scout or am I an AI agent? I could be an AI agent. I could be. I actually had an idea. I need to talk to Fisherman about that. But I had an idea for having like an always-on little lab environment here. And then even when I'm not around, we could still have the ProLUG running, still kind of, being that siren call to tell people to come and hang out in the Discord. But what it would do is it would just keep track of people logging into our environment. And then we would just have you could ask the AI questions and it would help you do stuff in the environment or whatever. All right, hold on. So we need to... All right, watch this. We're going to go to Fruit Streams, I think. CD to Code Examples. Code Examples is a place that I used to go. Look, I had all the different days that I was doing Ansible stuff. This was way back in the day. This is how I used to run stream. Hold on. I'm much more cavalier about this stuff now. I'm just like, if you guys want to come hang out, you can. I mean, I'm not other stuff. Hold on. We have, let's go check our node exporter deploy. So CD to, all right, hold on. VI, Zen, hosts. I'll just call it XCP, NG hosts. In here, we're going to call them servers, and we're going to go 192. Oh, geez. That's what happens if you don't have your. Really? What the hell's going on here? Normally, hold on. That's weird. All right, hold on. All right, I'll type it over here because apparently my numpad doesn't work in a CentOS 7 box anymore. 192.168.11.198. We'll go YYP. We'll go 199. And then we'll say YYP, and we'll change this to 201. 201, right? So, clear the screen. More XCP-ng hosts. We've got some servers now. Watch this. And then we go more for node exporter.yaml, which is going to inherit a role. Track with me here real quick, even if you don't do a lot of Ansible. When I run this playbook, let's go look at what it does here. But we're going to run it against the host file. This will be the inventory file, XCP-ng host. We'll give it the argument, we'll give it an extra variable at the command line, servers. So survey hosts here will equal servers. So now the host group will be that host group, right? Boom, boom, everything will link up. We go into roles and then node exporter, tasks, and then let's look at our main.yaml in here. What's our main.yaml going to do? It's going to copy over, it's going to create a user, node exporter, so those three nodes will get node exporter. It'll copy over the node exporter executable. It'll put in our node exporter, our node exporter service that we have as a service file. It'll start the service. It'll ensure over on the Prometheus side that we're tracking those. So let's go real quick over here to our Prometheus. What's our home lab for Prometheus? It's this guy? Yeah. We do not have right now on our targets 192.168.11.198, 199, or 201. Oh, hold on. No, 200, 201. That's in our. That's okay. So there's none of those, right? Okay. In fact, we'll go look 192.168.11. So that got all these ones. These are all our nodes that are up. We got some down nodes because we turned them off. But you guys do not see a 198, 199, or a 201 in there, right? Nobody sees that. Okay. Here, we're going to build those right here. And when I do that, we'll call these infra. Yeah, we'll leave them infra. They are infra nodes. Hold on. Do you want to change that so it's not? We can change it later. We'll change it later. All right. So all this to show you guys. Let's CD back up to where we were, and in here, we've got all the pieces now to deploy my Prometheus to those three node exporter, and then tell Prometheus to scrape those nodes. So let's watch over here. They're not there. They're going to be there shortly. All right. Ansible playbook -I for the XCP-ng hosts. The role that we want is, or the playbook we want is node exporter, which is going to inherit that role, right? --extra vars is going to be equal to survey hosts. Where's that? Survey _ hosts equals servers. This is going to run against those three nodes. It is going to then build back in the Prometheus node the scrape configs to go scrape them. So expose node exporter on those three. I don't have a key to those. I told you guys that earlier, but so I'm going to key over as root. So I need to know the password. And then if I was going to sudo up, I would need to know the sudo password. That's the lowercase k and the uppercase k. There's a trick, though. I can do them both, and I can just leave the one password. So we'll put in the password, and it'll default. 201. That's okay. So if there's a problem with the key, we can go fix the key. But we'll let it go deploy to all the other nodes real quick. I'll show you how we fix that node. 201 did get rebuilt. 201 did get rebuilt. All right, so, and by the way, Calce bugs the crap out of me, but we put it on here for laughs one day. And anyways, all right. So node exporter, copying over stuff, building all the stuff, doing what it needs to do. And then we'll see the two nodes show up over here, and then we'll fix the one, and then we'll run it on just the one. So I'll show you guys that. All right. Now, node exporter is being set up. Okay, 201 broke. Now over here, let's refresh this page. And we should now see, here's 200. And, oh, sorry, where's 199? We don't see him yet. It'll take a second. Here's 198. It's got a problem. We'll go check out if there's a... Did I leave the firewall on? All right. 199. All right, so both of those are having some kind of problem getting connections. So let's go jump into one real quick. 192.168.11.198. There's 9100 listening. No firewall running. Ah, hold on. Ah, so IP tables is running on this node. And it's very possible with IP tables. I think I locked these down so I could only SSH in off of this one box. That's very likely. So now, yeah, with IP tables, we're blocking anything else. So we can think about this. We could either add it, or we could just turn off for now, just for now, IP tables. Systemctl stop IP tables. Stop IP tables for now, just for fun. No rules blocking it anymore. We're on, which one did we jump into? A 198, right? So we come over here. And 199. Where's 198? 198 is now acting right. So we are scraping data off of 198 right there. Good. Boom. Now, let's go fix it on the other one. 199. As soon as we do that, by the way, we can check. We see 9100. That's our node exporter open. So I set up static in the playbook. Up here, it is a static discovery that we push over for each node in Prometheus. It generates that file each time, and then in the Prometheus config, if you are anything .json, you get pulled up into. That's how it automatically grabbed it. I'll show you guys that structure in a second. All right, I got to go fix. So here I have to vi root.ssh known hosts, right? And I got a / 192.168.11.201, and it was not 11. Oh, was that lab at one point? Oh, long ago, back in the day, that was the lab bot. I forgot about that. All right, so we don't have any other ones. So now, right, quit that file. When we go to rerun the playbook here, we're going to do a limit to 192.168.11.201, which was that node, right? So it's going to skip the other two nodes, and it's only going to do the one. Oh, that's now and the password, and we won't get that weird. Oh, I can't get in there because of the errors, right? The host errors. So we'll get that. That one will also have to have its IP table stopped. I must have turned those IP tables on because I remember I didn't want, if anybody ever got into my environment and I give people root access to all these other nodes, I didn't want them to be able to SSH into these boxes, even if whether they knew how or not, you know. It was one of those things I think I had turned on for security back in the day. I'll rebuild those. I don't know why I did in IP tables either. I think it's because I was doing a lot of stuff in Ansible IP tables back in the day. But yeah, nothing else can get into those boxes. And as you saw, it was blocking that. So let's go. We got to go jump into. Let's go in here. Let's go in here. System CTL stat IP tables -L. Just for now, right? Just for now, we'll turn it off. All right, over here, we should now have those nodes. We should be able to see that they're up. 201. We'll give it a second here. These ones are legitimately off, so that makes sense. And 200, 102. I don't even know what 102 environment is in my 200 space. Hold on. So these guys are all of them are up. Let's make sure. 198, 199, 201. Boom. So now, if I wanted to come back here to my Zen servers, and I wanted to say, okay, Scott, we've made a big old mess of things. Let's see if we couldn't find. We're using the influx DB. No, we need to change. So actually, what we would probably do is we would start a new. I would start this all over. I would say, okay, this isn't the way that I want to monitor these out of here. I would just go ahead and make a new dashboard, right? I'll just make a new dashboard, add a new panel. And this panel is going to be based on Prometheus now. And then I could come in here and I could start building. I can go in Builder and I could say, what metric would I want? I would like up, right? I would just like up. Up is a normal status, right? And I would like that for maybe my infra. I can also get it off of specific instances. But let's say that I wanted select value to, we do a few different filters. Let's just go grab one of the ones. We could do this one for each one if we wanted. There's different ways to do it, but 11 dot, let's say 198 right here. Up, instance 198. Good. I can also go, now I can modify this code and say, you know what? I actually know how to do this search better, and I want it to be like 190 anything, and it would be anything in the 190s, right? So let's say up instance 198, and then now over here, this was a question earlier. Somebody had asked me about all the different ways that we can look at stuff. These are all the different ways that we can look at stuff in Grafana. We can look at tables, bar gauges, stats. The most interesting one to me for this is going to be... I like gauges for up down, so I could do it just like this, and I could say in the panel title, I could say I can give the name of the cluster node if I wanted. So which one's 198? It's this guy. XCPNG big new or whatever I'd name these things, right? Host XCPNG big new, right? Maybe I have an even better name for them. I don't know, maybe. And then we can change all kinds of things about this. The calculation is always going to be based on the last. We are not going to do averages. Like, we don't want averages of if things are up or down. We want not based off the minimum either. We always want off the last value. The fields could be based on a bunch of different things, and I can change the text here, right? I can change this text. Where's that? The unit can be... Oh, we could have value mapping. So value is 0, is down. And add a new mapping of value. And 1 is up, right? So system is up or down. Those are the two things that my system can be, right? So now I got that, and I can make that smaller because we don't need that obnoxiously large, right? And then I can go duplicate that a few times. Let's go more, duplicate, boom. And then now I can just do this for each of the different, like if I cared about these from like an up-down perspective, this one would be 201. So then we inspect for 201. You might note, I have a whole bunch of other things I could do with this, and I can actually go grab stuff off the web that's already built. But we could do this, and then his name is XCP-NG-ACBTQSSRR, right? Which that name doesn't mean anything to me, so I might change these later. And he's up, and then I'll go make sure that the last one, which is this one, which is the 199 box, he is host xcpng dash dmtxmcqv, and he's up, right? And maybe that's slightly interesting, but now watch this. This is where we can start to get much more interesting things if we want to. Add new panel. No. Just save for a second here. We'll call this Prometheus. We'll call this xcpng hosts Prometheus. Maybe that's what I want to call it. I don't know. Good. Now, I want to move this down because that's obnoxious that it would be above that. And let's go grab, with a Prometheus query, let's go grab maybe all of the CPU, because this is much more. So maybe I want all the node underscore CPU stuff, and we can build it as code if we want. And by the way, if you want to build things as code, but you're like, oh man, I don't know any Prometheus, that's cool. Come over here to Prometheus, right? And I'm going to give you guys a nice little thing to cheat here in a second. Where's this at? Hold on. Targets? It's not targets. I got an older... No. Graph? Here we go. Okay, here we go. So now I say, like earlier, I wanted to see like up against all my nodes. Right, so I just execute my query and I can see up against all my nodes, and I can see if they're up or down, right? That's what up does. But hold on, now I want to see node, node CPU, and I want CPU maybe seconds total, and I want it against all my stuff. Query is going to take a little time because my system's old, and then. Here we go. We got seconds total, and then we can back off on this, and we can just pull certain information that we want about the CPU. Interesting to me that we don't have... Can we just start with CPU? Oh, not what I wanted. Ah, here it is. CPU seconds. I don't want any of those. Where are all these? Where the hell is it? Alright, we're going to go against seconds total. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, so that's the mode that we can go determine. So maybe I want to only care about, in this case, I'm going to care only about the mode is either, we're going to say system, user, and idle. System, user, and idle tend to meet all the requirements. But I can already see that something going on here is going to be way easier if I go fix something in my Prometheus. So let me show you guys something I was going to show earlier. So SSH to Prometheus. And labeling is important because you already just saw that I had to make 3 of those, and that was annoying. That's not the way I want to do this. Instead, what I want to do is I'm going to go to these 3 new nodes right here. Each one of these. So it's VI, what this file was created out of my Ansible playbook. And do you see how my team is infra? I can make as many of these little key value pairs as I want, but I'm going to change my team to maybe XCP, right? And then I'm going to change that for 199. Gotta make sure I remember this, guys. XCP. XCP will be the team. And then 201, right? You want to minimize the things that you edit by hand, but in a lab environment, my home lab for sure, do whatever I want. Okay, so see how those are all XCP now? Watch this. Come back over here, boom, Now when I execute this, I can say, but just give me in team is equal to XCP. Now just give me those. And the only things that I'm going to get are the 198, the 199, and the 201 servers. Do you guys see that? All I did was change a label so that now my query only goes over the dimension of those 3 XCP NG hosts, right, in my environment. So now watch this. I've already built the query. I've already got the query right here. Actually, this is the whole query right here. Watch, I'm gonna control C it. I'm gonna jump back over to my panel here, and I'm gonna drop it right there. Now I'm gonna come over here and say that the panel title is hosts CPU usage, right? And then let's just apply it real quick, and then we'll go look at what the data is gonna look like here. Also, these got all busted because I switched the stuff. But anyways, let's come over here. It looks like we have a really big over here. So let's change this to our defaults. Softmax will be 100 because it can only go up to 100. Let's apply it. And now we're starting to collect data in the system. Let's look at, instead of the last 6 hours, let's look at it for like the last 30 minutes. Say, okay, here's this node, here's his steel, here's his idle, here's his other information. What's, hold on. We might have to do some math on those, and that's not that big of a deal, but we can aggregate these things up, right? So the point is we can go and play with that, but we are getting the same data out that we should be seeing over here if we were to look at a graph like this. Yeah, what are we seeing here? Total seconds against all of these CPUs. Excuse me. What is the actual... Yeah, we're seeing the CPU node total seconds, but we might want to see yeah, I guess that'd be fine. Then we gotta go do some math on those to make those like percentages, which isn't super hard to do. We just have to, I'd have to go look at it, do it. Here's a cheat sheet. If you need the cheat sheet for doing this, right? Like if I want to go dig in right now, here's the cheat sheet for you guys. This is where you go get some really good stuff. I want to find, you know, only the CPU not 0 like mode user system. And then if you're doing this and you hit the open Prometheus, it'll drop you in their Prometheus instance, so you can do it for free right there in their Prometheus. So if you don't have your own instance of Prometheus, you can run theirs. I can steal this stuff. Oh man. Thank you. Oh man. That one snuck up on me. I can come in here and actually look and go, okay, we could go for, where's it at? I thought they had a good getting your node information. Here's your node stuff in seconds, and then we could look at it in a graph, and we would see it here. Have to look at these. I haven't done some of these in a while. Actually, this is good practice for me. See, this is a graph. Isn't super great. We got to figure out the... We don't need the increase. That'll give us the memory. No, we don't need available in bytes. We don't need that right now. Oh, hey King Buns, how's it going? Hopefully everything's going good with you and you're traveling around and doing coding. Last I had heard you were in a van down by the river. I'm just kidding. Last I heard, I think you were in a van somewhere. So hopefully that's all working out. By choice, guys. He's not in a van because he has to be. He's in a van by choice. I think so he can travel around and climb all over the place, if I recall. Yeah. Oh, it's cold. I am going to Ohio next week. Actually, I fly out on Sunday, and I'll be there in a data center all week for one of our customers. I have the data center will be the warmest thing I deal with, man. I looked at the 10-day forecast. There's nothing above 28 degrees on the calendar for next week, and I'm like, the hell is this? Oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about being in Ohio right now. I'm gonna be leaving. Like, it was 75 today here in Phoenix. 75 here. It was me and the wife walked in early evening nautical twilight, right, as the sun has already set, but you still have that. And we went and walked around for about a mile and a half, and no, I don't want nothing to do with any of that. All right, but guys, do you see how I don't want to dig too much into this right now, but this is how we figure stuff out. We go and we look at examples other people have. We can use our tools, and these queries here they don't look good yet in our presentation of this stuff, but those are the things that we're looking at. By the way, watch this real quick. I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna delete this one. And I'm going to delete this one because they're crap. I don't need them anymore. Now that I have them all in one group, let's just look for up. For instance, but hold on. Now we're not going over instance. We're going over over here, team equals. And now you can do a few things. There's some regex type stuff you can do in here where it's filter match, but we can do exactly XCP. But if I happen to have like XCP-prod and XCP-dev, and I wanted them to be shown differently, I could show them here. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and apply this for now. And now we're going to have these 3 nodes here. This is not great yet. Why is it not great yet? Because the labeling, I need to go fix the labeling. So the labeling has to actually call the right name of each server. I forget how to do that. I'll have to go look that up. But now the point is I can see that my nodes are up, but we're having a problem looking at that where they're up, but they're not at the threshold. So the value has to be, there's our value mappings, and then our field needs to be, I believe our thresholds have to be the 0 and 1, if I recall. But there's our mapping of up and down. Standard options. Where's it at? Unit auto. Min-max is going to be 0. And, 0 is min, and max is 1. And I believe if we apply that... Nope, still doesn't work. We figured this out a few months ago on stream. I just don't remember where it is. On last. Fields are numeric. That is true. That was interesting that showed... your dashboard save inside of Grafana. If you guys have never used it, it's very similar to like your... if you ever checkpointed or if you ever pushed something up into GitHub. And the reason I say that is now that this is done, I forget what we did the other day when we fixed this, but now we could come here, and if I ever need to go back to a different version, I can see all the different versions, and if I leave good notes for myself, I can jump back to any one of them. Little breadcrumbs for myself, right? Me and the wife watched iRobot the other day, which she hadn't ever seen, and I hadn't seen in a while. And there was some good information. They did the Hansel and Gretel, which was a pretty cool little reference. If you haven't seen that lately, that's a pretty good one. Okay, so what did we do today? We set up some stuff in the home lab. We went through some labs, and we talked about the systems administrator monitoring stuff, we started talking about, we didn't even get into traces and spans, and we didn't even get into the Prometheus architecture. This comes directly from the Prometheus page. But what is Prometheus doing? It is functioning as a time series database, and then you can query data out of it and graphically show it with a tool like Grafana. You can also pull data directly out of Prometheus, but it's just to present it to our customers, whoever our customers are. Typically, for me, it's internal customers, right? Like our network operations or our management teams. We can do that. We can also have alerts and send alerts out and all that kind of stuff. Why do we care? We can have our own view of the system. We can find things before they become problems, and maybe nobody ever knows we did anything. We just kept the system running. And I tell you guys all the time, uptime is the most important key performance indicator for your teams. A lot of times we have to provide views to other people who have different goals than us. Management wants to see usage and stuff that they can do data analytics on. They can figure out and then predict. And then our monitoring teams, they want to help us keep uptime. So we want to help them help us, right? I said, what do you think of these dashboards? We had some images of different dashboards. This is, actually, did this make it up to Discord? This is in the Discord, but it's in one of the talking channels where we had posted these. When I get these cleaned up a little more, I'll post all the PowerPoints for all the weeks and stuff if people want them. All right, this was a dashboard, and I said, is this a good dashboard? What do you think, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with this dashboard. It's just what is good or bad about it. Who would be looking at this dashboard, right? I think this dashboard's perfectly fine. It shows how long some system's been up, and I think this would be really useful for troubleshooting. If something discrete had happened on my box back on 11.1, I would know what was going on 11.1. I would see if there were any data usage spikes. But this is very dug in on one node 01 down in some Prometheus Kubernetes cluster. This would probably not be a great view for management because it's not like an aggregation of all the data usage. They would want to see how is all usage across that Kubernetes cluster going? How are all load spikes being handled on a Friday night? They would want to see like the big picture. They want to look at like what we call a 10,000 foot view of everything. We are down here troubleshooting. Why was the CPU spiking at this time? Is that healthy? Is that expected? That kind of stuff. All right. Lab test this week. What did we do that week? We built out a bunch of stuff. So for people that had never done the labs, all the labs were there. And that was our thing. All right. We'll probably call it here for the night. I think I'm going to go hang out with the wife. It's almost 8 here, so we're going to watch a movie or something. If this stuff's interesting to you, hop in our Discord, hang out with us down there. You guys are always welcome to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'll hang out with the wife for a little bit more. We're doing a meeting in a couple of days for people down in Discord that want to hang out and, I don't know, just talk shop, talk about the new year, talk about goals people have, and then we'll go from there. So, all right. We don't have enough people to raid, so we'll just go ahead and call it here, but I appreciate you guys all coming. I will see